This from Adrian Wojnarowski. The Houston Rockets feel no pressure to trade James Harden or Russell Westbrook, regardless of the superstar's strong desires for fresh starts with different franchises, and are, quote, willing to get uncomfortable as training camp opens as the season begins, sources told ESPN. No, I'm not doing a sound test. That's the classic sound test that you do in television to make sure that your mouth matches up with the sound. I am applauding the Houston Rockets. Like, this is, I've never understood. I think all of us have never understood the idea of, I don't like it. So, bro, you signed a contract. And part of it is we live and we allow athletes. And look, I was one. Okay? I was one. And I have friends that are athletes and friends that are coaches. And hell, we have friends, so many of my friends were athletes, and there's like a parallel universe that we've allowed many athletes and many stars to operate in. Whereas if you don't like the way your job is going, well, then you can go somewhere else and do the same job. And it's up to the place you work to find you happiness. Nah. No, that ain't it, kid. That ain't it. Right? You sign a contract, that's binding. And Russell Westbrook is under contract, I believe, for 3 more years. James Harden's under contract for 2 more years. They've played together for, a season which was abbreviated because of the quarantine and the shutdown, and it didn't go well at the end. There were parts in the middle where Russell Westbrook was playing great basketball before the shutdown. So it's not like it was a complete and utter disaster, but I think it's fascinating. Like, if I'm running the Rockets, and granted, you're under new management, you're under new ownership, you're trying to figure out how to do things. If I'm running the Rockets, I sit there and go, wait. So 3 years ago or so, James Harden was unhappy. Or we tried to make it better. We brought in Chris Paul. That worked together pretty well on the court, but the personalities didn't work. So in order to appease James Harden, we brought in his buddy, Russell Westbrook. That worked together as far as their personalities, but not great off the court. That we've been trying to please James Harden for the last 5 or 6 years. And it hasn't worked. So maybe now we don't have to worry about pleasing James Harden. Sometimes guys play better when they're ticked off. Maybe he doesn't. But that would be on James Harden. That would only hurt his trade value. That would only hurt his image and reputation. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you know what? Lots of people don't love everything going on at their work. They just don't. Welcome to reality. And that's what the Rockets are doing. We may fail miserably, but we're not gonna act on the whim of a guy who had the nerve to spend one offseason building up his brand, dating a Kardashian, came in out of shape, and then spent another offseason getting into great shape, but didn't like playing with Chris Paul because he was too mean to him, only to kind of force our hand and we make a trade to a guy that he does like, but he doesn't actually make our team better. Nah, we're going to do what's in the best interest of us. I love it. Again, it doesn't mean that it works, but if you punt on James Harden, you're telling everybody in the NBA, one, we acquiesce to the whims of our stars, even if they no longer want to play for us, which of course would set us back substantially. And 2, we put no accountability towards those same stars to figure it out. Again, there's so much of this stuff which is hard. Tillman Fertitta comes in. He is a really successful, hard-driving, hard-line businessman. His family was super successful with the UFC. Obviously, in the restaurant community, he is world-renowned for his ability to build successful businesses. He pays over $2 million in cash for a team that is on the cusp of competing or winning a championship. They don't get there. He's ticked. He wants changes. He wants it fixed. He changes coaches and general man, first staff around the coach. The general managing staff ultimately and the head coach get ousted while changing personnel. But you know what? Those James Hardens don't come around every now and again. And there's a way to sell this thing which actually can help you win over James Harden or win him back over or win over Russell Westbrook. Where you sit there and go like, fellas, look, we know you'd like to be moved. We know you're not that comfortable and you see the rest of the league getting better, but we think you're great and we want to fix everything around you and figure out a way to make it work. I feel like this is a finally moment in the NBA. Again, I'm not saying James Harden is Kobe Bryant. I understand. Okay, so please don't relay on Twitter or on whatever social app, or we put it out on Facebook or on Instagram. Gottlieb said Kobe, Harden is Kobe. Not. But if you remember, Kobe Bryant went on national radio and said, I want to be traded. Rick Bucher joined us yesterday, was the first to relay that Kobe wanted out of L.A. He was done. The Chicago Bulls would have had Kobe Bean Bryant. This is all a printed, true story. But the Bulls, and this is funny, didn't want to put Luol Deng as part of that trade, right? The same Luol Deng that the Lakers are paying out over 3 years because they couldn't wait to get him away from their club, and they won a championship in spite of carrying that burden, right? This all happened one offseason. Kobe wanted out. He was done, needed a fresh start, and the Lakers said, no. No, we know you're unhappy. We'll work to fix it. We'll get you a better club, fix the coaching thing, we'll make it better. You got to be better. This is how it happens in many of your places and my places of work, right? Where you don't love where the company's going and something that happens and it ticks you off. You're like, I want to go somewhere else. And most bosses sit there and go like, hey, that's great. Do you have a contract? If you're contract labor, this is what you have to do. We're going to pay you for this many years and this much money, and you have to come to work and you have to be productive. And if not, you're in breach of that contract and we can withhold your pay. Now, they never do that in the NBA. But instead of finding you happiness, why don't you work to find all of us happiness? I love that the Rockets like, nah, nope. We're not being forced. We're not being held at gunpoint by James Harden, who we've moved mountains for, to make him happy somewhere else. We're not building somebody else's championship roster, even if guys like me want to see him go to Brooklyn, because that would, as we said yesterday, be a beautiful disaster. Nah, you figure it out.